Can you imagine living without a refrigerator? Terrifying, right? For the majority of us, that is a nightmare. We use it for everything, from leftovers to ice cream. For the Amish, however, it is simply part of their daily lives. They've perfected the skill of preserving meat without the need of power, utilizing techniques passed down through centuries. Believe it or not, their tactics are so good that they might put your expensive freezer to shame. In a world full of electronics, the Amish distinguish themselves by adhering to traditional methods. No flashy technology, no refrigeration, just plain time-tested techniques. They are well known for their self-sufficiency, but when it comes to meat preservation, they are in a class by themselves. They don't just keep their food edible, they extend its shelf life and improve its taste. I'll admit that I was suspicious the first time I had Amish cured ham, no fridge really, but the taste blew me away. It was smoky, tasty, and lasted longer than anything I'd ever kept in the freezer. Press the subscribe button now to see more Amish and traditional ways of living healthy. If you believe meat without refrigeration tastes stale or dry, think again. The Amish have refined these ways for not only preserving, but also improving the quality of their meat. Salt has long been a trusted ally in food preservation, and the Amish have elevated this simple mineral to the level of art. Salt is nature's oldest preservative for keeping meat fresh, and the Amish know how to use it effectively. Rub liberal amounts of salt onto portions of meat to suck away moisture, which is critical in preventing bacteria from taking hold. Moisture is the enemy of meat preservation, and salt is the superhero that fights it. Using salt is more than merely sprinkling it on meat and calling it good. There is a procedure involved, similar to a religious rite. The Amish painstakingly choose their pieces, whether pig, beef, or chicken, and then heavily salt them, coating every nook and crevice. It's almost like giving the meat a wonderful spa treatment, but without the cucumber slices. Here's a fun fact. The expression "worth your salt" comes from ancient times, when salt was more valuable than gold in some areas. Roman troops were occasionally rewarded with salt. Could you imagine? Thanks for your service. Here's your salary in salt. The Amish still use this old knowledge today, using salt as more than just a flavor for their meat. When I first saw the salt curing process, I was astounded. I thought to myself, if I had to rely on this method for dinner, I'd probably end up with a meat popsicle. But the Amish have it down to a science. The finished product isn't simply palatable, it's a flavor explosion. The salt penetrates into the meat, improving its natural flavor and acting as a preservative. The beauty of this strategy is in its simplicity. While many of us are busy packing our meats into refrigerators, the Amish are letting salt do the heavy lifting. And the best part? This approach permits the meat to develop a deep flavor that cannot be found in frozen foods. It's like a culinary secret passed down through generations, with each family adding their own little variation to the basic method. However, relying exclusively on salt is insufficient to assure the meat's durability, particularly under changing weather conditions or while being transported. The Amish are aware of this and understand that an additional layer of protection is required. Smoking transforms meat preservation. It does more than only offer that tempting, savory flavor we all enjoy. It also serves as an effective preservation mechanism. The Amish have mastered this process, utilizing smoke to further dry their meats, extending their shelf life much beyond that of fresh cuts. Walking into any Amish kitchen, you're likely to see smoked hams, sausages, and bacon hanging proudly from the rafters, all meticulously crafted with artistry. Smoking is more than simply a flavor enhancer. It also contributes to the creation of an environment in which hazardous microorganisms struggle to survive. The combination of heat, smoke, and low moisture creates a hostile environment for undesirable guests. Interestingly, smoking can increase the shelf life of meat by months, and if done correctly, it can even preserve its flavor for a whole year. Imagine having perfectly preserved beef in your pantry, ready for the next family meal. Press the subscribe button now to see more Amish and traditional ways of living healthy. I once tried smoking beef thinking it would be a fun weekend hobby. Let's just say the aroma floating through the neighborhood misled my neighbors into believing I was throwing an impromptu campfire celebration. They came anticipating s'mores rather than smoked ribs. However, in Amish houses, the smoking process is managed with such care that it is considered a delicate science. They understand which types of wood to use, how long to smoke, and at what temperature. Every detail counts, and the end product is something absolutely unique. This approach is more than just dumping meat into a smoky pit and hoping for the best. The Amish use specific woods, such as hickory or apple, for their sweet, rich flavor. They closely monitor everything to maintain a controlled environment that balances heat and smoke. It's more than just a cooking technique. It's a tradition passed down through the generations that requires expertise and patience. With all of their hard work, you'd think the Amish would have plenty of smoked meat to last a lifetime. They are, nevertheless, sensible people who recognize that there are occasions when an alternative is necessary. Not everyone has a limitless supply of wood to keep the smoke flowing. That's when another clever strategy comes into play. This method adds a sweeter touch to the preservation game and provides another option to keep meat fresh. While salt and smoke are powerful meat preservation agents, the Amish have a nice trick up their sleeve: sugar curing. This approach blends sugar's sweetness with salt's preservation properties, resulting in a distinct flavor profile for meat. It's especially popular with hams and bacon, transforming them into something absolutely unique. The method is simple but effective. The Amish combine sugar and salt and rub it into the meat, allowing the two to work their magic. Sugar, like salt, increases flavor while also drawing out moisture. This produces an ideal environment for preservation while adding a delectable sweetness. It's the gastronomic equivalent of a cozy hug on a chilly day. Sugar curing might be thought of as nature's equivalent of candy-coated bacon, only it lasts much longer. The first time I tried sugar-cured bacon, I thought I had discovered a new food group. It was sweet, salty, and everything you could possibly desire in a breakfast delight. And the best part? It didn't simply taste excellent. It also demonstrated the Amish's resourcefulness in their ways. Interestingly, sugar curing is not a novel notion. It has been used for ages, with its origins dating back to when people learned sugar could do more than just sweeten tea. The Amish have improved this age-old method over time, resulting in meats that are both excellent and can be preserved for months. In fact, properly sugar-cured meat may last a long time if stored correctly. Definitely a useful ability when winter arrives. This approach relies heavily on a delicate balance of salt and sugar. Too much sugar results in meat that tastes more like dessert than dinner. Too little, and the wonderful sweetness is lost. The Amish have perfected the ratio so that every bite explodes with flavor. This process is not limited to ham and bacon. It is used on a variety of meats, each with its own distinct flavor. Sugar curing gives up a world of tastes for pig loin and other cuts of meat. However, even the sweetest approach has limitations. While sugar curing is great for taste and preservation, it does leave meat with a little sticky skin. To avoid this difficulty, the Amish frequently follow up with a drying process which results in a harder texture that is enjoyable to chew. When it comes to preservation, the Amish unleash another powerhouse: vinegar. This sour liquid isn't only for salad dressing, its acidity provides an environment in which germs cannot live, making it an excellent choice for pickling meats. The Amish frequently use vinegar brines to preserve sausages and fish, giving them a flavor boost that makes your taste buds dance. Vinegar brining does more than merely improve the shelf life of meats, it also imparts a particular flavor to them, elevating any dish. Press the subscribe button now to see more Amish and traditional ways of living healthy. The method is simple but effective. The Amish combine vinegar with various spices, herbs, and occasionally even a touch of sugar to make a brine that brings out the best in their meats. This approach allows the vinegar to penetrate deep into the meat, preserving moisture and keeping harmful microorganisms at bay. My grandmother liked to pickle everything, including vegetables, fruits, and on occasion meat. She once attempted to pickle some chicken. Let's just say that the outcome was an experience. The meat wasn't up to Amish standards. It packed a vinegary punch, but it was a little too experimental for our family. At the very least, she had the confidence to experiment. Vinegar brining is remarkable because of its versatility. The Amish can make their brines with different vinegars, such as apple cider or white, each with its own distinct flavor profile. Depending on what they're preserving, they can tailor the spices to complement the meat properly. Dill, garlic, and peppercorns are just a few favorites that frequently make their way into the mix, resulting in a beautifully diverse flavor that is anything but boring. A little-known fact is that vinegar has been used as a preservation for ages. Vinegar was used by ancient Egyptians to preserve food, while Roman troops used it to prevent food spoiling during long campaigns. It's astonishing how a simple ingredient can withstand the passage of time and stay relevant in modern kitchens. However, vinegar brining has its own set of oddities. The intense acidity can be overpowering if not adjusted properly. Too much vinegar can transform your meat into a sour mess. The Amish understand the importance of hitting the sweet spot when the brine complements the meat without overpowering it. Their skill and tradition help them create precisely brined meats that are both delicious and safe. Vinegar brined meats can be stored in the refrigerator for several weeks, making them a popular choice among Amish households. They frequently utilize these preserved meats in heavy meals like casseroles and sandwiches where the acidic flavor can truly shine. The beauty of vinegar brining is its simplicity and efficacy. It's a process that not only preserves, but also enhances meat flavor, making each mouthful a memorable experience. Many people believe that rendering fat is a lost art, yet for the Amish, it is a tradition and a necessity. This age-old procedure includes carefully heating animal fat until it melts, then separating the liquid lard from the solid parts. But here's where the magic happens. Once rendered, the melted lard can be poured over cooked meats, forming a thick layer that preserves freshness and flavor. This strategy isn't just for show. It's useful. By encasing meats in lard, the Amish create an airtight seal that prevents rotting for months. It works like a culinary time capsule, preserving the meat's flavor and texture while keeping microorganisms at bay. In fact, if stored in a cold, dry place, rendered fat can keep food fresh for up to 6 months. Press the subscribe button now to see more Amish and traditional ways of living healthy. It's a remarkable feat that illustrates the Amish's inventiveness in utilizing every component of the animal. When I first heard of lard storage, I imagined my kitchen looking like a grease bomb. Who needs Tupperware when you have grease, right? However, the Amish manage it with dignity, using it not only for preservation, but also for cooking. Lard is a versatile ingredient that adds richness to recipes while keeping them safe and fresh. The process of converting fat is quite simple, but it does require some patience. To ensure that the fat melts uniformly, it must first be chopped into small pieces. Then, it's placed in a pot over low heat to slowly render. What was the result? A stunning golden liquid ready to work its magic. What about the leftover bits? Cracklings are a tasty snack on their own. One intriguing fact is that lard was formerly the preferred cooking fat before veggie oils took over. It is high in monounsaturated fats, which are actually healthier than the trans fats present in many processed meals today. Nonetheless, years of health fads have left many people with an unfavorable perception of lard. The Amish, on the other hand, have continued to reap the benefits, passing along the tradition from generation to generation. This technique demonstrates not just the Amish's culinary skills, but also their dedication to sustainability. Nothing goes to waste since they use every part of the animal, and their food storage practices reflect their values of simplicity and self-sufficiency. Plus, there's something endearing about using rendered fat instead of plastic wrap to seal in flavors. Root cellars, like every other part of the Amish home, serve a purpose. These underground havens are used for more than just vegetable storage. They also play an important role in meat preservation. Imagine entering a cold, gloomy environment that feels like you've stepped back in time. A natural refrigerator that uses no electricity. The consistent low temperatures and humidity levels offer a perfect environment for slowing deterioration and extending meat shelf life without the use of chemical preservatives. My neighbor attempted to create a root cellar once, but the result was a muddy pit that attracted more raccoons than anything else. The idea of sharing dinner with a raccoon just does not set well with me. However, the Amish understand how to keep their food safe and their vermin out. Their root cellars maintain the proper equilibrium through meticulous construction and ventilation, ensuring that their hard-earned meats stay fresh and tasty. Cured meats can hang freely in these root cellars, allowing for ventilation to minimize moisture buildup and spoiling. Some may marvel how these modest structures can preserve meat for months. The key is to keep the temperature in root cellars between 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 40 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius to 4 degrees Celsius. This coldness, combined with the darkness, slows enzyme reactions and bacterial development, the primary causes of food rotting. It's an ideal combination of nature and old-world wisdom. Root cellars have been utilized for generations, and many cultures rely on them to store food. Archaeological evidence indicates that they date back to prehistoric civilizations. Nonetheless, the Amish have carried on this heritage, combining practicality with a desire for environmentally friendly living. They are preserving not only meat, but also a way of life that values the land and its resources. Root cellars are ideal for more than simply meat. The cool, wet climate is ideal for storing potatoes, carrots, and apples. Some families have been known to make their own tiny food pyramids, stacking vegetables and meats to maximize space. It's similar to a treasure hunt. Open the door, and you never know what you'll uncover. Root cellars are quite useful, but they are not the only tool in the Amish preservation repertoire. When winter arrives, they devise another strategy that takes advantage of the chilly weather. When winter arrives in Amish land, it's time to use a seasonal method of meat preservation that is both easy and brilliant: outdoor freezing. When temperatures fall well below freezing, chilly air becomes an ally in the effort to keep meat fresh. Consider a large slab of meat expertly cooked and placed out in the cold air, thus transforming the backyard into a massive freezer. It's like having your own personal snowbox without having to worry about electrical bills. The Amish have always known nature's power, and they have taken advantage of the searing cold weather. Following a good butchering season, families frequently hang larger chunks of meat outside. The cold air prevents the meat from rotting for weeks, if not months, making it a dependable technique of long-term storage. I can only imagine the neighbors observing and thinking, "Wow, those Amish folks really know how to make winter work for them." Of course, there is a catch to employing outdoor freezing. You must be careful of the weather. Too much snow or rain can degrade the quality of meat. Thus, the Amish frequently cover their outdoor meat storage with burlap or other breathable coverings. This keeps the meat dry, allowing them to enjoy the joys of winter without any unpleasant shocks. Even more surprising, freezing meat at incredibly low temperatures increases its texture and flavor. The ice crystals that form during the freezing process assist to break down some of the muscle fibers, resulting in a more tender piece of meat when cooked. It's like a natural marinade created by Mother Nature herself. Let us not overlook the playful aspect of this strategy. Imagine a scene with kids bundled up and racing outdoors to check on the meat, most likely fighting over who gets to bring it in for supper. "I'll carry the ham if you carry the sausage," they might remark, while a snowball war breaks out in the background. But let's be honest, no one wants to build snow angels in the beef storage area. Probably not the best method for preserving the flavor. What is especially surprising is how the Amish incorporate this practice into their everyday life. They plan ahead for winter, making sure they have adequate supplies to get through the colder months. It is more than just preservation. It is also about self-sufficiency and ingenuity. As they create nutritious meals for their family, they appreciate the simplicity of using what nature has provided. Drying meat is as traditional as it gets in terms of food preservation, and the Amish have perfected this age-old process. It all comes down to removing moisture from the meat. which prevents bacterial development and extends its shelf life. Consider hanging large strips of seasoned meat in a warm, dry environment. It's instantly turned into delicious jerky that will keep for months. The drying process is more than simply a way to preserve meat. It is also an art form. The Amish understand how to maintain the proper temperature and humidity levels. They frequently hang their meat in well-ventilated barns or even outside on nice sunny days, allowing the natural elements to do their magic. With the proper conditions, they may produce a completely dried product that is suitable for nibbling, cooking, or even gifting to friends and family. What's remarkable is that this isn't just a method for making jerky. The dried beef may be rehydrated and used in soups and stews, giving it a versatile supper option. You could say that the Amish have their own form of meat multitasking. Who wouldn't desire a product that can be used as both a quick snack and a filling meal ingredient? Talk about getting the most for your money. And let's face it, nothing surpasses the satisfaction of biting into perfectly seasoned jerky. Have you ever had jerky so tough that you could use it to hammer nails? It is a gastronomic disaster. What about the Amish version? It's rich in taste, delightfully chewy, and completely fulfilling. You can practically hear your taste buds dancing with ecstasy. When you think about food preservation, you may see jars of jam or fresh fruits neatly arranged in a pantry. However, the Amish have taken this concept to a whole new level with pressure canning, especially for meats. They've mastered a technique that allows them to seal meat in jars, keeping it safe and appetizing for years. It's like having a secret weapon for dinner. No more last-minute treks to the shop for dinner ingredients. This method isn't just for your grandmother's peaches, it's also a life hack for meat eaters. Sealing meat in jars and boiling it under high pressure creates an airtight environment that kills microorganisms and maintains lifespan. It's a practical method of food preservation, particularly for large households or during harvest season when there's a lot of meat to handle. I recall my friend's family canning stuff over the summer. They had an entire shelf dedicated to beef and chicken, which could certainly withstand a zombie apocalypse. Here's an interesting fact. Properly canned beef can last for 3 to 5 years when stored in cold conditions. That is longer than many of my friendships. It's hard to think that while the rest of us are constantly checking expiration dates, the Amish are relaxing with their canned foods, knowing that a meal is only a twist of the lid away. The pressure canning technique is quite astonishing. The Amish prepare their meat, fill the jars, then put them in a pressure cooker. As the temperature rises, it produces a microclimate that preserves the meat while also locking in its tastes. It's almost like magic. One moment you have raw meat, and the next you're holding a jar of hearty beef stew, ready to go at a moment's notice. Press the subscribe button now to see more Amish and traditional ways of living healthy. I used to believe that canning was an old-fashioned pastime, but witnessing the Amish do it changes my mind. They've elevated it to an art form, with families coming together to exchange techniques, recipes, and tales while working. It's more than simply food. It's about tradition, family, and passing down a piece of their legacy. I can almost smell the savory foods emanating from those jars just thinking about them. While pressure canning is an excellent way to assure a steady supply of meat, the Amish have a few other clever tricks up their sleeves, which come in handy, especially during the winter. When you hear the word pemmican, you may think of a trendy new health trend, but believe me, this is the real deal. Pemmican is an age-old Amish cuisine that combines dried meat, rendered fat, and in some cases, fruit, and has its origins in Native American customs. It's a massive source of energy that is ideal for long-term storage. Imagine being out in the woods with nothing but your trusty pemmican. That's the survivalist fantasy. I once thought I could make a batch of pemmican to keep on hand for busy days. I saw it as a tasty homemade energy bar that I could grab on the fly. Spoiler alert, I ended up with a gloppy slop that tasted like regret rather than anything palatable. Meanwhile, the Amish have perfected this ancient craft. They have it down to a science, with each batch serving as a mini miracle of preservation and nourishment. What makes pemmican such a great dish? The combination of dried meat and rendered fat provides a long-lasting energy source. It's like getting a camping trip's worth of nourishment in one bite. You could be out in the field in need of sustenance, and there it is, a ready-to-eat piece of pemmican. Just don't expect me to cook it for you. I'll gladly leave that to the professionals. Here's a fun fact. Pemmican can last for years without spoiling, especially if kept cold and dry. That is longer than my previous relationship. It's high in protein and healthy fats, making it the type of food that keeps you going. It may not be on your local restaurant's menu, but believe me, if the lights go out and the world goes sideways, you'll wish you had a cupboard full of this stuff. Berries are frequently used by the Amish in their pemmican, bringing both sweetness and nutrition. I remember when my neighbor tried to wow us with his version, thinking he was adding a gourmet touch by tossing in some chocolate chips. Spoiler alert, things didn't go well. What about the Amish? They know how to strike the perfect balance between nutrition and flavor, ensuring that every meal demonstrates their culinary expertise. From salt to pemmican, the Amish show that you don't need modern appliances to keep your meat fresh. Their approaches are timeless, useful, and a little magical. It's astonishing how they've mastered the art of food preservation, depending on nature and ancient methods rather than cutting-edge technology. After all, who knew you could outwit bacteria with a pinch of salt, a puff of smoke, and some clever thinking? In a society where convenience often takes precedence over tradition, the Amish remind us that sometimes the old ways are the best.